Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of JavaScript Jabber. This week on your panel, it's just me this week, Charles Max Wood. I'm also here with Aral Roca Gomez. Do you want to just introduce yourself, let people know who you are and what maybe you're famous for, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, sure. Hello. Well, yeah, I'm Aral. I'm from Barcelona. And I love to contribute to open source. So I have a lot of libraries and I try to contribute as much as possible to open source. And the last thing that I did, it's a framework, Brisa. And yeah, that's the topic of today.
Awesome. Yeah, I got in, started having a look, and it looks like it kind of does everything. So before we get too far in, I did want to ask, why build another framework, right? It seems like the running joke for a long time was another day, another framework kind of thing. So yeah, why create something new as opposed to just saying, oh, here's how you do it in React or whatever?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than the other ones. It's a full stack framework, but it's not like solid start Next.js or SvelteKit, because all these frameworks in reality, it's a top framework from some front-end library. Like now Next.js is using React as a library, and that's the same for Next, that is using Vue. SvelteKit is using the Svelte, etc. And in Brisa, we implemented in the other way. So we started building the framework without any JavaScript front-end library. And the main goal at the beginning was to be possible to create web applications without JavaScript client code and bringing all the power on the server. And here we mix ideas from HTMX, that it's a great library, and also ideas from server actions, but implemented in a different way. And this was the first approach. But then we realized that, well, in reality, client interactions also make sense in order to implement that. And one of the things that we like in Brisa is to use the web platform as much as possible. And also we are transferring hypermedia. And the best thing to support this front-end part was to implement web components, but in a different way, because we wanted that the developers can write web components in a easy way, in the similar way that they are writing the server components with JSX. And also we are using signals for these web components. So is another idea of framework. So it's a little bit different. But the main goal is that, for example, if you have an e-commerce and that almost everything are server interactions, you can build it without any web component. That is the most powerful thing. And then you have 2 kilobytes. That it's the size of the RPC of Brisa.
Right. So let's go ahead and start with where you started, because you mentioned that it was it had kind of the server, what was it, server actions, and those kinds of things. And then you brought in some of the ideas from HTMX. By the way, folks, it's Brisa, Brisa. You can find it at Brisa, brisa.build. But yeah, so you want to explain how the server actions work and how the HTMX ideas kind of come in, and then we can move up from there to the front end?
Yeah, sure. In Brisa, all the events on the server are server actions, and they are very similar to the front-end events. So you can capture not only the on submit, also the on click, on scroll, on double click, all the events. And also the propagation is working on the server components. So you can pass on a server component some event and capture on the parent of the the server components this action. And the powerful thing here is that we move part of the web platform on the server, and you can access to the event, and you can access to the event current target value, for example, or the data attributes, or you can reset a form on the server. In reality, the responsible to do this job is the RPC of Brisa, but all the code that the developers are written and is executed is on the server. So this is the powerful thing. And then we add some extra attributes from ideas from HTMX, for example, an indicator to handle pending states, the error states of these actions in an easy way. Also, for example, if it's an on input, we are supporting at the bounds. But to support this, the bounds on the server. No, it's on the client, but it's written on the server. And also one of the ideas of HTMX that we are supporting is hypermedia. So all the server actions are transferring HTML, but in streaming.
Okay.
And yeah, to understand a little bit better how this improve, if we are thinking to the normal way to do server interaction with other frameworks, normally we are adding client code on client code to normalize the event, then serialize, and then we are calling some API endpoint. Then we are awaiting the response of the server, and then we are rendering on the client, also adding more client code. And in Brisa, we change this approach. So all the things happen on the server, and then you can decide if render the component, render the page, or render another component in another place. But all these things happen on the server, and then it's transferring HTML in streaming, and the users see the changes much faster because it's the power of streaming, that and doesn't need to await the response to then do this extra job on the client.
Gotcha. So how much faster are we talking? I mean, I hate asking that question because it depends a lot on what you're doing, but
Yeah.
can you kind of give us a ballpark? Have you benchmarked it or anything?
To be honest, no, because now currently the current version of Brisa, it's very experimental. It's not yet the 1.0.
Uh-huh.
And for the first public version, we focus a lot on all the ideas, to build all these ideas. And now one of the ideas is to do all these benchmarks and also improve this performance and all these things. So it's something that I can tell you. But if you try it, Brisa, then you are going to experiment that it's so fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, a lot of the work, it sounds like, is offloaded to the server. It's not done on the front end. It seems like some of the other systems that I've been playing with, like Next.js, for example, you brought them up a couple of times. It does some of this, but it doesn't. A lot of the focus is still on the front end. So how does Brisa balance that between what's done on the front end and what's done on the back end?
Okay, yeah, but by default it's server component. But in Brisa, we don't like to say server component and client component, but we are telling this because it's more familiar for
People understand
the developers.
the idea. Yeah.
But yes, but in reality, we like to talk about components that works on the server, but also in build time, because if you have an static site, you can do it with Brisa. But then the server actions is not going to work. It's one of the things. But then we are supporting these web components. And the idea of these web components is that is also powerful because it's only 3 kilobytes, including the signals itself. And we did a lot of optimizations in build time to be as more tiny as possible. And then if you have 100 web components, it's not to increase a lot. It's going to increase very small.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're kind of optimizing for how much information you have to send up to the client, including your code. And I like that. I guess the other question I have is how does it work as far as like, storage and things like that on the back end, right? Are you counting on people to use
Mm-hmm.
something else there to store stuff in a database or use Firebase or something like that? Or am I completely missing something
Okay,
there?
yeah, this is an important question. We are of course, you can use a database and it's not a problem, but we are supporting an store on the server, and this store lives on the request time by default. So, but in reality, to understand it well, in reality, there are two stores, one on the server code, on the server components, and the other one in the web components. And then you can transfer some properties from the server store to the client store. And this is powerful because then after transferring some properties from one store to another one, then on the actions, on the server actions, also you can modify this store. And also we create a new concept that is the action signals, because if you modify this store on the server action, then the web components, the signals of the web components are reactive
Okay.
to these changes.
Yeah, that's nice. So what are you using for this store? Is it kind of a proprietary thing, or is it, back it up on whatever database you want to use, or how does that work?
Well, this store on the server is very useful. For example, if you fetch something or you take something from the database on the top level of the page, and then all the components can consume it in an
Right.
easy way. Just access with this store, for example.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking about is like the longer term persistence. So, I mean, typically you see people using like an ORM with PostgreSQL or MySQL or something like that. So, does your store just have some kind of interface to that where it's in the process of doing the store stuff, also call these callbacks that push stuff to the database?
Uh, then, well, this is a job that the developers need to do,
Right.
but they then can do it. For example, in a server action, then they can access to this store and save this value to some
Okay.
database, and then on the initial render, then they can do the same job. Go to the database and then initialize the store on the middleware, for example, or in the page.
All right. So, on the front end, I saw some stuff about web components and I mean, it seems interesting. To me it looks a lot like React. And that's
Yeah,
probably on
and
purpose,
that's
but
yeah.
yeah, so I guess I'm wondering what the difference is at the end of the day.
Yeah. When we are writing these web components, it looks very is similar than React because it's JSX with
Mhm.
signals. But then there are some difference. One of them is that finally they are web components, and these custom elements exist on the DOM. And for example, if you need to build a form, you need to know the attached internals, for example, and to expose this web component to be part of the form. And so there are some difference, but we tried to improve the developer experience uh, to be more familiar for the developers in order to build these web
Mhm.
components. And the good part also is that thanks to create this JSX component, then it's very easy to support the server-side rendering of this web component thanks to the declarative shadow DOM on the server. And also the type safe worked pretty well because we know the props, etc. And then when the good part of Brisa is that when you are reading the JSX, it's easy to identify if a component is a web component or a server component, because the web component is written as a custom element, and a server component it's like the React component. It's with JSX. And to improve this developer experience, what we did is that when you are typing some web component, you can see all the web components that you can consume. And the difference here with the normal way to build web components, that the selector of this custom element is based on the file name. So you have a special folder. So in Brisa, everything runs on the server except one folder, and this folder is the web components folder. And then each name of each file is the selector. So if you have like a custom counter or whatever, then is the selector of this custom element.
I'm not sure if I completely followed that. So, yeah, you want to just kind of give me a brief clarification? I'm not even sure what to ask to clarify.
To understand it correctly, it's an important thing, because if you are building a web component in Brisa, then if you want to use a web component on a server component, that is server component, use a web component, you don't need to do an import of the web component itself. So automatically this custom element exists. And to do this relation between which web components you can consume on the JSX is based on the name of the web component file.
Okay. So it's doing some kind of auto loading and intelligent discovery to know what it's got and what's available, and you don't have to go import on every single component.
Yes, exactly. Yes, in build time, what we are doing is to read all the folder of the web components. So then we know all the web components that can be consumed. And then when we detect some web component, it's importing this wrapper to do this declarative shadow DOM of them, etc.
That makes sense. I mean, besides some of these, optimizations for developer experience, which honestly, that one's a big one for me because I'm always trying to keep it straight. Okay, where is this? How do I pull it in? What do I have to do with it? What do I have to know about it? And so if it does all of that kind of at build time, then yeah, there's a lot less concern for me because I can just follow the convention and just have it work.
Yeah. One of the things that we wanted to do with this is to do like a separation of concerns, so that on the server components, all the imports is for the server code. And then you can consume the web components as web components. That is just custom elements. And this was the idea, basically.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, I mean, do the components look and function basically like React components, or are there some differences that you ought to be aware of that are going to trip you up?
They work only as functions, so it's not working as class. But yeah, it's very similar than React.
Okay.
These terms.
So what are the differences you're going to see? I'm assuming kind of the fundamental stuff all works the same. So
the difference between React?
So a React component versus a Brisa component.
Okay. Yeah, for example, in Brisa, we are not using a virtual DOM, and we are not using re-renders. So the idea is that only happens one render, and then thanks to signals, when some state change, that is some signal change, is reacting directly to the
Okay.
DOM without rerunning all the web component.
So does that change the life cycle of the component then? And do you have to be aware of some of that stuff then?
All the mounting and unmounting is working as a normal
Okay.
web component, but then updating this component is this signals approach. Yes.
So then I guess my question is, what's the primary benefit to using Brisa instead of a React or Vue? Is it the developer experience, or you also mentioned the performance? Are those kind of the big reasons why I might want to look at this?
Yeah, I focus that when I started Brisa, the main goal was what I say, to build a web applications without JavaScript plugin code, and this for me is the most important part. Um, for example, if you have an e-commerce, in an e-commerce, almost all the interactions are server interactions, like add an item to the cart, or also an infinite scroll. You can do it with a
Right.
server action in Brisa, and this is the big powerful to the loading time be very fast, and then also all the ideas of these server actions also is to um, improve this time also during this interaction thanks to HTML streaming.
I mean, a few other things that
The developer experience,
no, go ahead.
yeah, sorry. No, the developer experience is very similar in reality that React, but then also, for example, the developers needs to take account that there are things that in reality at the end is all the client parties were components, so there are important things that they need to know, like attach internals, for example, as we commented before, for the forms, etc.
Yep. So one other thing I saw in here, and I kind of feel like I buried the lead here a little bit, because this is something that I know a lot of people look for in whatever they're doing, but it looks like you have build offerings for um, Bun, Node, Dino, which kind of makes sense. But you've also got Android, iOS, and desktop. So what does that look like?
Mhm. Okay. About the runtime, the JavaScript runtime, at the beginning we started only with
Mhm.
Van because uh, when I started to build Brisa was with all the Van
Right.
tooling. For example, we are not using Bit, we are using Van for the build because it has some powerful things like the macros that we like. And also we have some features that thanks to these macros.
Hang
But
on. So
then
if
we
if you're
realized
using
that
Bun to build it, can you build it for Node and Dino as well without Vite? Okay.
yes, yes. Um, yeah, thanks to Van, we can build it also for Node, and also for Dino, we are building from for Node, and also doing some abstractions to work correctly with
Okay.
Dino, because we realize, and also thanks to feedback from people, that we should support more runtimes, and then we implemented Node, and then finally Dino. And also for the 1.0 version, we want also to improve the runtime agnostic thing, and also support some clouds that we are not supporting now. And but this is a thing for the future. And then about the Android, iOS, or desktop thing, in reality, what we are doing here is to support, to integrate everything with Tauri 2,
Okay.
in an easy way, so that the developers with only one configuration can turn your web application to an Android or iOS or desktop in an easy way. And all this configuration is automatically by the CLI of Brisa.
Yep. I'm trying to find a link to Towery.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm spelling it wrong. Oh.
Yeah, Towery is very powerful because it's a Rust web view for the
Okay.
desktop application, and it's much powerful, for example, that Electron, because it's tiny and also better in performance.
Yep, definitely. And I was spelling it wrong. It's Tauri for the folks that are out there looking for it. Well, we have to get some of these folks
Mm-hmm.
on. Anyway, so
Okay.
yeah, cool stuff. So when it does the build for the native apps for Android or iOS or the desktop, you said it's faster than Electron, but does it have a JavaScript runtime in it? Is it kind of like Capacitor or something like that, or Cordova, or is it more like React Native or something like that?
You can use native things thanks to Tauri. In Tauri, you can do some bindings, and then you can write things in Rust. All the thing is documented
Okay.
very well in the Tauri documentation. And so, yeah, in Brisa, the only thing that here we are doing is an integration that then the developers can use in an easy way
Okay.
for that. But all the things are very native, and you can, yeah.
Makes sense. So are people using this today for their applications? You said you're still working on it, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here one of the improvements that we want to do for Android or iOS that is on the roadmap of the 1.0 is to do two different builds. One for the server part and the other one for the executable, no, for the Android or
right.
iOS. And then to be connected automatically for the server actions. And well, yes. Oh, what's your question?
So my
Sorry.
question is, do you have people actually using Brisa now in production, or?
Uh-huh. Yeah, now few people is using it, but for example, Albert, that is one of the contributors, he has his company that is a travel agency, all built with Brisa, not only the public part, also the back office built
Oh,
with
nice.
Brisa. And yeah, but as I comment, it currently is experimental Brisa. It's 0.2, and we put that we don't recommend to use it in production. But of course, there are people that is
Right.
using it. But almost all the people is just playing with it, and also we are creating a great community in Discord, and there are some production projects, but a few for now.
That makes sense. So are you hoping that this, eventually gets to 1.0 and people can use it in production? Or is this mostly an exercise to just learn how to build something like this? Or, I mean, what are you hoping to get out of it at the end of the day?
Um, are you asking about the 1.0 roadmap?
No, I'll
Or
ask about that in a minute. What I'm asking about is where do you want this to take you, right? So are you just trying to learn
Mhm.
about how to build things like these frameworks, or are you hoping to build a company around it, or are you looking to,
Okay, yeah, and I understand.
is it
Okay,
just,
okay.
hey, I like to give conference
Um,
talks about it, or, my company that I worked for needed it, so I just want to solve their problems. There are a million reasons to do them. A lot of times it's more than one,
yeah.
right? So yeah, I'm just curious.
Now, in reality, one of the things is that all the projects, all my side projects, I wanted to start using Brisa. Also, my blog, Coral, is with Brisa, and all the side projects that I want to do it, I want to do it with my own
Okay.
framework, no? But also at the beginning when I started, also I like the idea of learning by doing, and also the idea of contributing to the web a little bit better. So and bring my ideas, and in reality this was the
Okay.
origin that why I started, no, in order to build Brisa.
Gotcha. So yeah, what is on the?
Also,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah. Mhm. No, just to comment that also, thanks to Isco from Angular
Mm-hmm.
and Quick, that he came to Barcelona 2 years ago, and I talked with him, and I remember that he talked about Quick like his
Yep.
baby, with a lot of passion, and all these feelings. And then I remember that just at this moment, I came to my mind, oh, I would like it to build a framework, but it doesn't make sense to build a framework without a
Right.
roadmap. And then is when I started to try. I tried the Next.js server actions, and at the beginning was wow. I like the idea. I like the
Mm-hmm.
idea of server actions, and also the idea of HTMX, but I didn't like how server actions is implemented in Next.js. There are a lot of things that I think that should be better
Mm-hmm.
implemented, but is with a different
Right.
paradigm, so that I can't contribute to Next.js. And then I started writing my ideas.
Yeah. I have to say one of the things that I don't love about some of the things in Next.js, like server actions, is that some of them are a little bit tricky to get running on your own. Just to give you an idea, so I like to deploy my own apps to my own servers and kind of live in that space. And I know people think I'm crazy. It's like just deploy it to Vercel or just put it on the cloud. But I want to set it up and run it, on Docker containers wherever I want it. And some of that stuff's just a little bit tricky to do without the cloud infrastructure that's offered by Evercell or Netlify or something like that. And so that's kind of my hang up. The idea that there's a framework out there that kind of has it built in and I can just deploy however I want. I'm digging that. I like that a lot. What is the deployment story for Brisa? Do you expect people to be using something like um, Vercel, or can you deploy it
Okay.
on your own?
Yeah, we have an adapter for Vercel. Then Albert, that it's a contributor that has his company with Brisa, he is using Cloudflare. However, we don't have the adapter of Cloudflare yet, so it's very working in progress. And also, you can use a Docker file with Van or with Node, or but for now, the only cloud provider that we have some adapter is Vercel. But in reality, and then it's just a server. Uh, so
So I could go set up just a small droplet on DigitalOcean
exactly,
and just say, "Here's my code, run," and it'll run just fine and be fully featured.
exactly. Or if you decide, yes, or if you decide, for example, the output as static, for example, as my blog, then you can build it in any
Right.
CDN, for example.
Yeah, I've seen that with a few of the other frameworks as well, where people do that and then they deploy it to like Amazon S3, and then they can put a web
Mhm.
server in front of it really easily, and then it just serves your stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
very cool. So what is on the roadmap for 1.0?
Okay, the most important part here is to be stable. So now we are prioritizing all the issues that the community is founding. And so for now, we are growing the community, and the goal is uh, to grow more, and also because we are interested that the people tried Brisa and found
Mm-hmm.
issues in order to fix that. And probably this is the most important topic. But then also we have some dependency. for the navigation API that is experimental yet, but it's in the interrupt of this year. So probably this year is going to be supported in all the browsers. And because for the single page application approach, we are using it. And we prefer to await in order to also be stable this. And then in the roadmap, there is to increase the adapters to be more runtime agnostic also, and more aligned to clouds. Also, we need to create Netlify adapter, the Cloudflare ones, and there are a lot of things to do in these terms. And then also for web components, what we want to do is iterate mode, like partial iteration, that the developers can decide that, for example, that the web component is iterated when it's visible, for example, or in a lazy way, or by default that it's the easier. Then also we want to support transitions. That is a proposal from the community, because one of the things that we did for this roadmap is we bring some ideas that we want to do it yes or yes, because was at the beginning of the first roadmap, but we move it to the next one. And then we asked the community in Discord and that they wrote their proposals, etc. And also, for example, there is a good proposal to improve all the offline first things, and it's something very interesting that we want to implement also. And also, in order to improve the developer experience, we also will want to improve some the current playground, because the current playground on the website is working only for the web components. But we can improve that, because then for the developers it's easy to play and see how Brisa works, and also increment the number of examples. We have some examples that the developers can try it, but want also to improve. And there are the most important part is to improve the hot reloading that we have, because now it's a little bit slow. It's fast because it's running with ban, and ban all the build process is very fast. But currently, one of the problems is that instead of running only the files that change, is building all the application every time. And if you have a very big website, a very big project, then you notice that is a little bit slower. And yeah, but now, thanks to ban, they are improving that, and they are implementing new APIs for watch files during this build process. And also they are building Bake, that is a server framework of ban that improve a lot all these things, and we want to integrate all these things.
Cool. Was there anything else that we should get into with Brisa?
Well, what I recommend for the developers is to go to the website, brisa.build, and here we have examples that they can try in an easy way. For example, how to use SQLite in a server actions. And also, one of the things that we are supporting that I didn't comment is generators. So in order to have more control about the streaming part, we are supporting async components, but also async generators. And then you can decide each chunk of this streaming. And this is powerful, for example, with SQLite of ban, that it's returning, for example, for a list, it's returning in a streaming. So then you can render this list in streaming. And also the developers can try the playground and play with that. And maybe another topic, it's about internationalization. That maybe we can talk about it, because Brisa is supporting internationalization, but not only for the routing part. So it's also supporting internationalization in order to translate all the content of the pages.
So what's different about your internationalization? Because I saw it on your website, but to be honest, and maybe this is a naive take on things, but internationalization, I guess it depends on the
Mm-hmm.
app, right? Because some apps, it's like, look, I'm only building this for the US. I'm only building it for English speaking audiences. And so I don't do the internationalization. But if you're putting a product out there that could be used across the world, or even, here in the US, we have more and more people speaking Spanish, right? You branch into Canada, you hit French pretty fast, right? So there are a lot of reasons to do it, but it seems like table stakes to me for most of the apps that I'm building. It's like, okay, well, I want this to work for English and Spanish speakers because they're in my market, right? And then as my market expands, I can
Mm-hmm.
add internationalization for the other stuff. So yeah, I guess I just kind of took it for granted. But yeah, why are you making it first class? I guess is one question. And then the other question is, yeah, what are you doing there that's different from maybe other things that I've seen?
Okay. Yeah. Well, in internationalization, the idea is to for SEO, in order to improve, it's important to provide a different URLs for each language, to don't have to have more content in different languages, and then the Google and other searchers can uh, get all this content in different pages. And then for all the routing, we are supporting that directly the ISO, and then the name of the page. And also you can translate the page name. For example, in Spanish, about us can be translated to sobre nosotros, that it's the same in Spanish. And you can define all these things in the internationalization configuration, and then it's automatically handled by Brisa. So the developers don't need to do almost anything. So it's very easy to integrate it. Also, we are supporting hreflangs. So if we know that one page is supported in a different languages, then to improve the SEO, we are supporting this tag and also the lang attribute in the HTML.
Mm-hmm.
This for one part, that is all the routing part. And then for translations, we are also supporting our implementation, that it's a reach of the ECMAScript API, the Intel. And I did it in this way because before doing Brisa, I have experience with an open source library that is Next.js, that it's the most used library that I have, that it's internalization library for Next.js. And now Corel is used by a lot of people. So it has like $80,000 per week, and you have a lot of time of years now. And when I did this library for Next.js, I see that there are a lot of things that I can do in the library because I don't have the control of the
Mm-hmm.
framework. And doing this integration directly on the framework, then it's much powerful for the hreflangs, for translating the roots, and 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 also then to bring on the client only the keys, the necessary keys that we need to consume in the web components, for example, instead of all the dictionary. And the code that is doing that, it's very tiny. It's 800 bytes, so it's less than 1 kilobyte. And this is why we decided, in order to build our translation thing, to be very, very tiny. And all the responsibilities like pluralization, etc., the responsible to do that is the ECMAScript API.
Cool, very cool. Yeah, I have to say, so most of my development experience, as most of the listeners already know, is in Ruby on Rails, and they have built-in internationalization stuff, right? You just provide the files that give the translations and the keys, and it just does it. And it looks like yours mostly works the same way. It's, hey, this is the phrase for this, and then it just does the thing, which is super nice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned
also, as a comment,
you did mention having a different URL for the different languages.
Yeah.
Do you just expect that in the oh yeah, it looks like it's in the routing. You could also do like domain routing. Yeah, so it looks like you have all of that. And then it also does the automatic locale detection. And so if I've got my browser set to US English, or sometimes I get a wild hair and I'll do Italian because I speak and read Italian fluently. Right.
Yeah, this is automatically detect. And if it's a language that is not supported, then it's loading the default language. Yeah.
Makes sense. So you mentioned that, in the documentation on here, it looks like it's pretty thorough. And you've also mentioned that, you do your blog, which is static. And then, the other guy is using it for his travel agency. And so it's actually probably managing data and images and stuff for people who want to travel. Let's say I decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to go build something in Brisa and just see how it goes. And, I mean, where do I start? Do I just start with getting started on the documentation? Should I join Discord? Follow you on Twitter? Are there other places?
Yeah, if you go to the get start of the documentation, you can see that it's only one command, CLI command, that it's the ban create Brisa, and then you can start with.
So I have to use ban
some project, but
okay.
Yes, one of the things is that you need ban for all the tooling part. And also you can go to the examples, and then you can try any example also with only one command. And you can say like ban create Brisa, and then we have a flag that it's example, and then you can put the name of the example and load it.
Makes sense.
And also we invite the people also to join to Discord, and any tube, anything you can talk on the general channel, and we are well, we are responding very fast, and also we like the interaction and feedback there. So feel free.
Good deal. I don't know if I have anything else. Was there anything else that you wanted to hit, or should we just move on to the last part of the program?
I think we talked a little bit about everything. Of course, there are a lot of topics, and there are a lot of topics that we didn't talk about it. But for example, about the layouts, all the structure, of the pages. And I want to comment that it's very inspired with Next.js, the pages folder. So it's how we are defining the pages. And then also we are supporting more things like suspense or an error. No, if you have some error on the server component, it's implemented in a different way than Next.js, because when in React, because it's not a boundary, that it's not a wrapper. it's like different phases that the component has. So for example, the async component has like a pending state. This is suspense, and then this error. And in order to define them, it's a little bit different than React. Also, we are supporting middleware, WebSockets. So we are supporting a lot of
Right.
topics, but what I invite the developers is to go to the documentation, try it. Also for styles, we are supporting uh, uh, also Tailwind. We have an adapter for Tailwind, and also another adapter for Panda CCS. Also, you can use CCS in a normal way. Also, we are supporting CCS modules. And well, but yeah, I invite the people in order to try it. And yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, the last part of our program is picks, and picks are just shout outs. It's an idea I actually stole from a podcast I don't listen to anymore, twit.tv. I'm not going to go into why I stopped listening to them, but I like the idea, so I
Mhm.
borrowed it. Incidentally, I'm looking at borrowing some other ideas from another show I'm listening to now, but picks is just shout outs about stuff that you like. So a lot of times people do, like I do board games every time, right? So I'll do a shout out about a board game, and then but people do TV shows, they'll do technology stuff too, right? So they'll pick, hey, I really like these computers, or I really like this library, or whatever. So I'll go ahead and do my picks, and then you can go ahead and throw in anything that you want to make sure people check out. So
Okay,
my
sure.
first pick is a board game. What we played last week with my buddies was Heat, and I've picked it before, but Heat is a car racing board game. I'm not going to go into all the details, but the main component of it is that get you're trying to win the race, and so whoever gets the furthest past the finish line on the last turn wins. And I guess there's a campaign mode that I haven't played, where you do multiple races, and then as you win the different races, you actually get winning money that you can spend to upgrade your car. But the trick of the game is that you have heat in your engine, and if you overheat, then your car spins out, and you have to go back. And so typically what it is you're taking a turn, and there's a speed limit on the turn. And so if you move too many spaces, every space you move past the speed limit on that turn, you take heat into your play pile, into your discard pile actually. And so then you shuffle your discard pile and you have all that heat, but if you run out of heat, you can't take any more heat out of your engine into your deck, then you spin out and you go back to a line on the curve. And then you have to still pass it with that speed limit. And so the trick is getting as far around that curve and then managing the heat as you go through the next 2 or 3 curves,
Mhm.
right? Most of them have a long stretch where you can do some things to recover heat, or sometimes you can do other things to recover heat anyway. And there's some variability in your speed and stuff like that. There are cards that make it a little more randomized. You're not always playing numbers that you picked, but anyway, it's a super fun game. I think we played it in about 45 minutes to an hour. There were 5 of us. And so, yeah, I'm going to pick Heat. And then, yeah, as far as other things go, I figured out that 1923 is back. So that's one of the Yellowstone spin-off TV shows. It's got Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren in it. I don't know that any of the other actors or actresses or people that I could just name off the top of my head that, oh, they were in this thing that I also really liked. But it's a really good show. Little bit of a warning: there's some nudity and some language. That said, another pick, if you're if you want to wait for that kind of thing to be taken out, is VidAngel. And so you can go sign up for VidAngel. Aral is in Spain. I don't know if they offer it in Spain. I know they offer it in the United States. They're actually based here in Provo, which is not too far from me. But what they do is you can load it up. Works with Amazon Prime, and then I think if you have your other subscriptions for like HBO or Paramount Plus or whatever on Amazon Prime, then you can watch some of those shows. It also works with Netflix, and the way that they do it is they actually have people who don't mind the language and the nudity and the sex and whatever else you want taken out. And they're pretty thorough. Like there's a lot of stuff that when my wife and I watch, we turn it back on. It's like, okay, that guy gets shot with a gun, but it's not super gory. We're not seeing anything that we don't want to see. So turn it back on. Right. Some of the language doesn't bother us, but some of the other language does, especially my wife. She's a lot more sensitive to it than I am. Right. And so we'll say not these words, but those words. Right. And so your sound will cut out when they say the word, and it will skip the parts that have the nudity and sex in it. And so if anything else happens while that's going on, yeah, you might miss some stuff, but I haven't found that it really affects the quality of what we're watching. So anyway, but if you want to watch 1923, I'm enjoying that. I'm also watching the new season of Reacher. Usually I wait and I binge them, and this time I didn't. So I've been waiting for episodes to come out, which is strange. But anyway, so those are my picks. And then finally, my final pick
Yeah, that's
is
great.
I just got hired, new job at Prize Picks. And so they sent me a big box of swag. And so I got a water bottle. I'm holding it up if you're not watching the camera. I got some stickers. I got a backpack. I got a t-shirt. They're going to be shipping me a laptop to work on, but I'm pretty excited to be working on that stuff. So as we dive into that, I will get you more stuff that lets you know what I'm working on. But anyway, those are my picks. Aral, what are your picks?
Okay, cool. Okay, my are a little bit different. I recommend a book that for me changed my life. That is Why We Sleep. And it's very important to know how we are working, no, and how the sleep works. And it's from Matthew Walker, and I recommend it. And it's a very important topic. I had problems of sleep on the past, and I recommend that when for everyone in reality, but also for developers. Sometimes we are thinking that we want to spend more time on the night with the code, but in reality, it's better to stop, have a very good routine, and this is much powerful than at the end. So I recommend this book, Why We Sleep. And also another topic is sport. I recommend to do any sport for everyone. In my case, I practice parkour for a lot of
Nice.
years, more than 20. Yeah, and it's very important to do some sport because it's like doing decisions in every moment, no? And also then you are focused on the current moment. And when you are training some sport, then also brings a lot of power for different areas. Then for when you are programming, then it's then very similar because when you are programming, you are taking decisions every time, and it's a very good way in order to train this in a different way, and it's very positive. And I recommend the people to do some sport.
Very cool. I have a question about that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
I do triathlons and marathons. But my
Oh, cool.
question about parkour in particular is if somebody goes, I've seen videos of parkour or, TikTok videos or something, right, where somebody's jumping off of something or kicking off of something or doing a flip downstairs or something like that. How do people get into parkour? Like, are there good resources for people to, okay, here's baby
Okay,
parkour, and then
currently,
here's, okay, now you're not going to hurt yourself parkour, and then here's the risky parkour.
yeah, currently is very um, different way in order to join that years ago, because years ago was like a new thing, but now there are schools, academies in almost each city that you can learn all the things in with crash mats in a soft environment. And the good important part of parkour is that you know your limits, and all the decisions should be how you feel. If, for example, you have a bad day, uh, you are the responsible to decide if not to the
Right.
jump today. No, because uh, it's not like competition with other people. That also is another topic, because now exists competition in parkour. But for me, the parkour, the most important part is to train to ourselves and to know your limits. And I recommend to be very progressive in
Right.
these terms. So to start in without hate, and then step by step you are learning.
Yeah.
So like programming, no, you are not going to start building a framework. You start step by step, and then you after some years, then you can do more
Right.
complex things.
I guess what I'm asking for is there like a tutorial you like out there that says, here are the basics of how to do parkour?
There are some web pages that there are the
Okay.
techniques, and the most important part is how to
Mm,
land, and know how to land correctly without
right.
impact, and then to learn the basics.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll just go on YouTube and how to land without hurting myself. Cool. What else were
Yeah.
you going to pick? Sorry.
Also, if you search my name, Aral Roca, uh, you can find the both
Okay.
topics about programming or about parkour. Also in YouTube, for example, my channel Aral Roca is about parkour. But then in Twitter, everything is
Right.
about programming. So it's like two different walls. So it's like Brisa, no, that have the server wall and
Mm-hmm.
the client wall, but yeah, two different topics.
Very cool. You were going to pick something else, I think, and I interrupted you.
I wanted, yeah, to recommend a movie that I like it. That it's Life is Beautiful,
Mm,
and in Spanish is La Vida es Bella. I watched it 3 times or four, I think, and it's it, it's like the interpretation of, if there are something that is wrong, then you can interpret in a
mm-hmm.
different way, and to at least enjoy and don't be frustrated. And I like
Yeah.
the movie, and I
I
recommend
love
it.
that movie, La Vita è Bella in Italian. And so
Mm,
the first part of the movie, they're not in the concentration camp; they're in the city, and
mm.
the city that they're in
Yeah.
is Arezzo, and I lived there for 5 months, and so it's
Oh,
fun to
really?
watch
Oh,
the movie and go, yeah, I've been up that street, and I've been there, and yeah. Anyway, but it's a tremendously good movie. Um, it's a
yes.
sad movie, but it's also a fun, and it's a
Mm,
very good movie.
yeah, it's sad, but
Yep.
transmit a
Yep.
lot. Yeah.
Cool. Well, you mentioned the Discord, you mentioned Twitter. How do people find you on the internet?
Yeah. In internet, you can find me in Twitter, well, in X, with Aral Roca, and then you can find Brisa with Brisa.build. That is the website, and in the website we have all the links from Discord, GitHub, and everything.
Yeah, I was going to say the Discord's easiest to find just by going to the website and clicking the link.
Yes, and if not, it's brisa.build/Discord, and we have already.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for coming. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks to you for the interview.